No, they haven't treated, they're just sitting, they're staged.
Got it.
They're sitting
Well,
along,
that's town, that's state, we're talking about town.
yeah, state, right, correct. What are you saying?
My button just popped.
Oh, that's all right, I'm covered in dog hair. I cleaned before I left.
It's up to you. I'll set up anything you need.
You know what? I think there's not too many.
It's a manageable group.
Yeah. Gets a lot bigger, maybe we'll.
Tell them we're all friends.
But he's very, yeah, that's why they.
In town.
Okay, yeah. He came to the ABC meeting, and he participated, and he's gonna be an alternate. Yeah, they do, but he knows.
That's public property. Yeah, it was in the package that was one of the upside down ones.
These are the,
Just in case you want it for your reference.
We're good. It goes off.
Jack, did you find a plumber?
Not exactly, but I found somebody who could help me. Man, this turned out to be a huge issue.
It always does.
Much more than I thought I could just change. No, things started breaking apart on me. I couldn't take them apart.
A 10-minute job becomes an hour job. An hour job becomes a 10-hour.
All I was gonna do was,
And then you gotta get
Stop a
told to
leak.
fix it.
things just broke apart. But thanks for I saw your message, Candy. Candy, I saw your message. I didn't have a chance to respond.
Yeah, he saved me twice.
It's all right, my daughter from Seattle also asked, I think I can get you a plumber.
Both of these individuals.
There's nobody else that answers you when you call them.
Hard.
Okay. At some point, if you want to bring it up.
Either pass it over to me or vice versa.
Candy, do you know the ordinance for, alcohol in public places, what the fine is?
Steve, I have to ask you.
Can look it up quick.
I thought it was real.
We still have so many questions about that.
I sent an email to Sheila that started with, for Sheila, Soldiers Monument Agenda. I hope you got it and sent it to her.
She's on the email every day, so I'm assuming she's got it.
Okay. Because I was trying to differentiate what goes to you and what goes to her.
everything goes to you both, right? Yeah. Does everything go to you both?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So,
but the funny thing is, since she's retired, she's discovered Facebook.
Otherwise, we're gonna miss the guest. Never like mysteries.
Candace, it's $90. It's uniform though, it doesn't matter where the place is, it's $90 for cannabis. They allow, there's $1,000 if you're in it's $1,000 for cannabis if you would elect to choose that. In a public eating area, and it's $50 anywhere else.
So public, like East End Park, it's 50.
Yeah,
What's it for alcohol?
$9.
speak.
That's where we have a problem, alcohol.
This is big stuff. The
I might not
newspapers
hear.
here.
Okay.
He doesn't react.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, the regular Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, February 7th, 2022. Before we begin, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence. Last week was particularly rough in the history of Winchester, as we lost Walter St. Ange, who served 3 terms on the Board of Selectmen. He was an Army veteran serving in World War II and the Korean War. He served as a Justice of the Peace for 17 years, was the Registrar of Voters, served as the Chairman of the EDC Commission, and he was the Chairman of the Board of Assessment Appeals. We also lost our town historian, Millie Hudak. She also served as a Registrar of Voters for the town, and she was the Chairwoman of the Youth Services Board. Thank you. Can we have a call to order?
Candace Bouchard.
Jonathan Morehart.
Candy Perez?
Josh Kelly.
Todd Archelashi.
Glenn Albanesius. Stephen Sedlak.
Linda Grappo.
Jack Bork.
Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Anyone have anything to add to the agenda? Do we want to put the approval minutes before the?
We can do it after.
Okay. Moving on to the discussion on cannabis regulations for the town of Winchester. We will accept public comments at the time. We ask that you all remain respectful to other members of the audience. Josh, anything to say?
Good evening, everybody. For those of you who didn't hear before, who I haven't met, my name's Josh Kelly. I'm the town manager. I'm going to read through just a little bit of information first about the law that was put into effect. That's Public Act 21-1. Just to make sure that everybody is aware. If anybody would like to read the materials that the Board of Selectmen received about this item on the agenda for today's meeting, there are copies that are available up here on the table. Please feel free to come up and get one at any time. I will just go over some highlights, and then I'll also invite the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, George Clausen, if you would like, before public comment begins, to share a few words about what the commission has done to date. I think that would be in order. First and foremost, I think the question that needs to be answered is what's legal now? So as of July 1st, 2021, Public Act 21-1 legalized the possession of 1.5 ounces of cannabis on an individual's person, and up to 5 ounces is permitted to be possessed in the home or locked in a car. Retail sales will not be permitted until towards the end of 2022. Medical marijuana patients are able to grow up to 3 mature and 3 immature plants at home as of October 1st, 2021, with a cap of 12 total plants per household, and other adults will be able to grow under the same rules starting on July 1st, 2023. This is a phased-in process, but it does allow for possession, consumption, and growing cannabis. Businesses, as I said, are able to open in towards the end of 2022. That includes multiple types of cannabis businesses, including growing businesses, retail businesses, and packaging and other manufacturing-style businesses. And it's the Planning and Zoning Commission that will have the ultimate authority on what the zoning regulations look like in Winchester for these businesses to be able to open. And that's really what we're soliciting public comment on at this time. There is a sales tax that's permitted under this Public Act, which is a 3% sales tax placed directly onto the sale of cannabis to the end user, so that's at retail stores. And any such sales that are made within a municipality, that 3% sales tax goes to that municipality. There is also a provision in the Public Act that allows for municipalities to regulate public smoking and cannabis use. That allows for a $50 fine to be placed or to be levied against an individual who is found using cannabis in any municipally owned lot that the Board of Selectmen designates to be off limits, and up to $1,000 per infraction for use at outdoor dining facilities. The Board of Selectmen would have to elect to enact an ordinance prohibiting cannabis use in these various areas and assigning these fines or up to this level of fine. I did also speak with the town manager of Great Barrington to hear a little bit about what their process has been like over the past 3 years. I will say Great Barrington is similar in size to us, but not equal. They're about 7,170 individuals, and they're about 25 miles to our northwest. In early 2019, Great Barrington saw its first cannabis-related business open and now has 7 that are permitted. And in that time, with the same 3% municipal sales tax, they've been able to levy $6.7 million from the sale of those products. Beyond that, the town manager shared that there's been no measurable increase in crime, no measurable increase in DUIs recorded, and other businesses have reported an increase in the number of out-of-staters that have traveled there, and there has, in general, been his feedback was that the businesses have been very pleasant to work with. So the 2 questions that are really in front of the Board of Selectmen tonight are, should any particular kind of cannabis business be restricted from operating in town, and if so, which types of businesses? And the second question is, should such businesses only be permitted to open in certain parts of town, and if so, where? My understanding is that the Planning and Zoning Commission has been discussing this up to this point in time, that they have now requested the input of the Board of Selectmen and, in turn, the public, before they proceed with finalizing any such regulations. So that's what I'll say for now. George, if you'd like to say a few words about the Planning and Zoning Commission's operations or actions up to this point in time, and then we can see who has public comment.
Good evening. Thanks for inviting us, George Clausen. We have, a couple of years ago, we had the medical marijuana that was put in place in the state, and we dealt with that, and we have that in our regulations. And so likewise, when this became known about what was going on with the state, we have been discussing, and we've got a rough draft right now of what we think it should look like. And of course, the process is, first of all, we wanted to make sure how the Board of Selectmen and the public reacted to the whole possibility of this. And following that, if however comes out of this meeting tonight, whatever has come forward for public discussion, we will then fabricate a draft that will call for a public hearing, at which time we can talk about specifics with regards to what zones would it be possibly allowed to have this in place, hours of operation, distances from various, category of facilities. So those are the types of things we've talked about, and we've got, like I said, we've got a draft, but again, until we heard from the Board of Selectmen and the community a little bit about this, we felt we should just sit back and see, if there was any restrictions that you folks thought was necessary, or if in fact you didn't want to see it happen at all. Like you in your investigation, a couple of us from the Planning Commission have talked to people up in Great Barrington and Sandusfield, and talked about the things like if you do a growing operation in the Northeast, it's pretty much going to have to be in a factory building because of the time it takes to grow the plant, and it requires a lot of water and a lot of electricity. So those things, the fragrance coming off of that production is one of the things we've actually got in our draft with regards to filtering that so it doesn't get into the outside the confines of the facility. But I think the nature of the regulation appropriately would come up to us if we're going to move forward, and we can have lengthy discussions. We've got public access at any of our meetings. We're all advertised second and fourth Mondays, and once we do put a draft together, we'll advertise and put it on the town website so that we can get a public hearing or more than one to adequately go over the concepts that we come up with. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
can regulate hours
Yes,
and regulate locations,
that's correct,
correct?
yes.
I thought the state had some feeling
Guidelines.
about hours, but you're saying the town can regulate the hours of, you could say 8 to 5?
That's my understanding, and of course, any of the regulation that we would put forward, it all then, just like the liquor control board, we'd have to include, not list it necessarily, but refer to the state and their oversight and to their regulations and security, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, so would the state hours be more enforceable than the local hours?
I haven't seen that, Jack. I haven't seen that. We've looked at what Great Barrington has done, and they think they're up to, I think
They're up
was
until
it like
10.
11 o'clock.
I thought they were till 11 PM at
Yeah.
night, like 8 AM till 11.
Yeah.
Barrington is.
And we've talked about less than that in our draft.
Did the original Connecticut regulation state 50 feet from any business?
That I didn't see that.
Okay, I thought I read that initially, you know.
Mostly it's talked about, the lower education system, so all the way up through the grade 12 and being some distance from that kind of operation, so that we wouldn't have.
And I thought it also included cigarette smoking as well.
That's more or less something I guess you can do by ordinance with regards to places that you cannot do on town property and public access points.
What areas have you discussed permitting?
Three areas we've talked about is, again, we've gone down to about 8 zones from around 22 or 23. Town center, and why we talked about that is if some of the, as far as growing operations from the old mill buildings that are not being utilized, if this was something that was of interest. But again, this is during a public hearing, we'd like to hear, whether that's a good idea or not a good idea. So town center, the gateway zone, which is all the way Route 800 going south, Route 44 coming into town before you get to the town center, and on the access point to the west as well. And then we've got a part of that gateway zone goes north on Route 8. So those are the three areas that we're talking about. And again, it's all subject to review and discussion.
What about that lot, they were gonna put the golf course in?
Yes.
Up in the hill there, that 100 acres or
Yes.
something like that. Would that be a growing area, a possible growing area?
That's not in the zone. that we-
No, it's not in the zone, but it's not even,
No. And that's probably in excess of 500 acres up there.
yeah.
Yeah. Linda?
So I guess for our population, we're allowed one type facility of each. The retail store, and you said that could be on the Main Street area? Okay, grow centers.
No, that's what we talked about, the old mill buildings, whether
Okay.
or not that would be of interest.
Assembly centers?
Could be the same kind
The
of thing, or
same,
the
so it
industrial
would be all-
planning. So the third area, aside from what I just said, was the industrial zones, which is.
Which are the gateways?
Wh-
Okay.
Which is not in the gateway, but the industrial is our park to the north.
Oh, okay.
And we had a small industrial park that was approved on Route 800 that was just north of the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Okay, so, and the assembling and packaging would be another area
Yes.
in the, okay. All right, thank you.
That's when we have our meetings, that's when we could focus that for a meeting and really just so we could get
What
a
zones
good
and exactly
appropriate
what
discussion about it,
properties.
yes.
And it is possible, isn't it, to have assembly, growing, and retail sales at the same location?
Yes, I believe it could be, yes. Yeah. what we've looked at in Great Barrington, there's a big facility south of Great Barrington that does that. And they grow and assemble and sell retail.
And you wouldn't need different zoning regulations for that.
No, we wouldn't, we intend to include it in that
Allowable business.
yeah, in that category, in that part of the regulation, yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, George.
Thanks.
We have received a couple of pieces of correspondence. You want to read one? Sure. A couple weeks ago, we received one from Brian Sunday. He's in the audience today. He'll probably want to speak, so we'll just read the two that are not here. This is from Shane Deschamps. He writes, "Good afternoon. I was planning on coming to the meeting tonight, but something came up, so I'm writing for public comment for the record. I feel that the town of Winchester should clear cannabis business to open in town. With current economic situation, it could help. The industry will bring jobs and tax revenue that we could definitely use. Not opening one in town, in my opinion, would not keep it out of town because number one, it's already here and has been here for decades, and number two, I'm sure there will be at least one opening in Torrington or surrounding towns which people would travel to. We might as well keep the money in our town if we can. As for location, I would think the old Wendy's on Main Street would be a good location as it's right on Main Street and will receive passing traffic to bring people in. The Stop and Shop Plaza I don't think would be a good location because of the lack of visibility from Route 44. I would hate to hear in 5 years from now that we missed the boat and we wish we could go back. Thank you for the chance to give input. Shane Deschamps."
And Shane is located at 150 Gilbert Ave, for the record. And the other written comment that we received, aside from Brian Sunday's, but again, he'll have the opportunity to speak here tonight, from Allison Pierce of 106 Ledge Drive. And she wrote, "The debate about cannabis is over. It is a legal adult activity in CT. We must accept that cannabis is like tobacco or alcohol or gambling. Whether we like it or not, this is the reality. I think it would be foolish to snub our noses at this lucrative industry and miss out on the millions of dollars it will generate in our town. Please don't let Winchester miss out. Thank you."
Okay, who would like to speak? Anyone? Please identify yourself, come up to the microphone so they can hear you on the video. Give your name and your address, please.
Brian Vincent of 83 Pizzawack in Park Hampstead. So I strongly agree that legalized marijuana in your town is going to be great and very beneficial to your town. If there was someone to come in as like that wanted to do a cultivation license that was above the micro cultivation license, which would be 15,000 square feet and above, that's probably where you generate the majority of like a large amount of tax revenue. It goes into a lottery system in Connecticut. If you guys approve your bylaws, would you be willing to back a cultivator or just like go through a zoning approval for them for their application to make their application more appealing to the state?
We would need to look through the legislation that was passed in Public Act 21-1, and it would have to be cleared through our town attorney.
Yeah, well, I was just asking because it said between now and June 30th, municipalities are can start granting zoning approvals for people. So I wasn't sure if there was a location that the planning board approved on, and you guys were writing your bylaws. If someone was to approach you, if you would review it.
It would probably be something that we would have to stay out of, I would imagine. But we would need clarification from the town attorney.
Okay.
Either
All right,
way.
thank you.
Hi, how are you? My name is Michael Reno. I handed you guys my business plan and my
Sorry, sir, I should just mention that you handed my office as town manager a business plan that has not yet been distributed to the Board of Selectmen. If you'd like to speak about it, certainly that's permissible.
Basically in the same boat he's in. I'm looking to become micro cultivator,
Okay.
and, basically this is very competitive. All of us might not even ever get a license. I mean, I can't even believe the low amount of licenses these people are giving out. It's absolutely absurd. I feel like they're gonna run out of product, and, so it's very competitive. There is no vertical integration, so being able to sell out of the front and grow out of the back is not allowed. At least that's what the Equity Council told me personally when I went to one of their meetings. Although Curaleaf now owns a bunch of medical dispensaries and grows in the state, so that's a contradiction. So, yes, this is very competitive, basically asking the same thing this gentleman is asking for, some sort of backing from the town, stating that you will accept a micro cultivator, and, like, you're only allowed to have 2 of any sort of the industry up until the year 2025, when it will be your discretion or the gentleman behind the discretion in how many people want in your community. They don't have any of these rules in Massachusetts. That's why like Great Barrington has 7. They don't have any lottery either. That's what we have to constantly go through. I believe they're gonna have 2 a year. And it's gonna be very competitive. So I gave you guys my plan. It's foolproof. It takes care of smell, the environment. And basically I'm looking to find out where you're gonna zone at so I can try to get a spot and live out my dream. So basically, if you have any questions, my name is and number is on the, Mr. Kelly, I believe you
That's right.
handed or gonna hand out, or
Yes.
if you need to know anything about how a cultivation facility runs from the beginning to the end, this is a foolproof plan. So if you have any questions, this probably will answer all of them for you for any indoor cultivation facility. So I take care of the water, using water. I use a rainwater system. I'm gonna have solar panels on the roof. I'm gonna use a drip to waste irrigation system so I don't use the municipal water. And basically, that's it.
And just to provide, thank you for the comments, just to provide a little more clarification for the board, I did not think it appropriate at this time to forward you a business proposal that's come from this gentleman here, but I do have it in my possession. It's one of, I will say, multiple business proposals that we've had from members of the public at this time to open similar facilities here in town. If any member of the board is interested in looking at it, you're certainly welcome to do that by stopping in my office. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I just add one comment on the head? Is, like, where you had mentioned that you could look back in 5 years and you may have missed the boat. You could look back in 5 years and no one has even gotten a license that they could put into Winchester yet. Is because, like, what he touched on is this year they're only allowing 12 licenses of each business, and then at the end of the year, they'll do another 12. So you gotta think out of the thousands of applications they're gonna get in, there are only a handful handed out, and so, you know, take that into consideration with your laws, is, you wanna make sure you can get these people in before 10 years down the road and they're established in all the other cities that are getting higher priority. Like the DIA cities are, disproportionately impacted areas, and Winston didn't qualify for that, so it makes it even more difficult for people to open a facility in your town.
Thank you. David?
David LaPointe, 11 Hillside Avenue, Winston, Connecticut. I admire people who are trying to start up businesses, and I think that's good. But knowing that most of you here, not all, but most, have children who you raised or are raising, I realize that this proposal, you also have the medical cannabis, which has been approved, and I get it. You know, it helps people. I talked to a gentleman today, and he said it's helping him. But as far as recreational marijuana, yes, it is state approved, but it's not federally approved. It is against federal law, and I know of hundreds of cases, because I was a correction officer for 21 years, whereby I sat in Narcotics Anonymous. I sat in all these meetings of AA, where this is the preceding drug that leads to fentanyl, leads to all these others, God forbid, that any of people, and you know the statistics, Mayor, are dying of that exponentially. And so I hope that you do the right thing, and I know that you wouldn't be serving here if you didn't on that issue. But I admire people who want to move forward with business, because in 1948, there were more businesses and there was more factories here than there are now. In 1948, Jonathan, you posted it from the town manager, and I read it, the article with Cornelio, that in 1948, we had 10,400 people here. Today, we have a little bit higher than that, still, and less business, and only one jeweler. You know, so thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, David. Anyone else like to speak?
Wesley Ricosa, 424 South Main Street.
Please come sit.
If you speak over there, they can't hear you on the
Yeah.
live stream.
Yes, Wesley Ricosa, 424 South Main Street, West Hartford. Just to touch on the subject that this gentleman had brought up, marijuana madness is over. I mean, honestly, in no shape and or form is marijuana a gateway drug. I mean, I myself am a survivor of a horrific accident, and I can tell you that there's more lives that are damaged by prescription pills, which is now the leading cause of all addictions. And there really isn't any side effects for adult use cannabis use. I mean, it is literally something that can change the lives of many with cancer, HIV, any type of autoimmune disease. And some individuals that don't want to go into the medical program, they're going to rely on the recreational use, you know, because they might have a job, or there could be still some lingering stigma to the use. So it's something that your town should heavily consider to bring into. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian?
Hi, Brian Sunday, 152 Spencer Hill Road. I don't have much to add to what I wrote in my quick letter last week, other than there's a lot of talk about adult use. I'm here just to talk about children. I think I'm speaking for a lot of parents out there, and for myself included. There is nothing I worry about more, and other parents worry about more than kids and drug use. And it is like so frightening, and I can't understate that enough. I just worry about the message that we're sending as a town when we get into commercialization of marijuana. It normalizes it. I just don't think it's good. I think some folks here and other folks will, you might get other communications, will cite all types of statistics about it's not a gateway drug, it's not this and that. I could do the same. I could send you guys stories and articles all day that would show the alternate. I know in my professional life, I spent a lot of time in the courthouse. I can't tell you the number of arrest warrants I've written where people go back and they talk about, I started with marijuana and I ended up here. There's a study in Weirtown, I mentioned in my letter that both the mayor and the town manager have talked about opioid abuse being their top priority. I could tell you that people who smoke marijuana are nearly 3 times more likely to use opioids. Now, these gentlemen and anybody else, with all due respect, could probably tell you something different. So, I just don't think it solves a particular problem. I think it only introduces problems. And really, I wasn't going to say much tonight. I wasn't going to say anything at all until I saw this document here, which to me looks like a sales pitch for it. I think it's short on talking about the societal impacts. I mean, there is nothing about the societal impacts, really. That's the thing I'm most concerned about. So, I would love for you guys as a board at some point to hear from substance abuse professionals, the police, you name it. We mentioned Colorado here, we see 10 billion, we see all these things, but again, there's no mention of the other impacts of what's happened in those states. I'm not an expert, but I'd say the Great Barrington model is a little too soon to sort of like judge a decision on. Obviously, there's facts and figures here, which I think is what, why we're talking about this, why everyone's interested is because of the dollars. We think we're gonna pave our roads and do all this stuff. I think history has shown in other states where they introduced marijuana that they thought it was gonna be a big budget panacea, it's gonna fix all the problems. From my, layman's research, it seems like all of those states that have these mature marijuana programs still have considerable budget problems. So it hasn't really solved any problems there. And I think it's only introduced societal problems. If we were to have this here, how about some type of analysis, if possible? If we're bringing in whatever, $300, how much money are we gonna have to spend on social services? There are studies out there that say for every dollar of marijuana you bring in, revenue you bring in, tax revenue, you're spending, $4 on social service related services. So I'd be happy to send you guys all that stuff, but you probably don't want that. But I guess I just encourage you to, again, think about the kids. I know everyone talks about adult. The fact of the matter is, pick up the paper anywhere. We're already seeing in Connecticut. I can only assume it's the stuff that's come across from Massachusetts. But kids are ending up with this stuff. They're taking it to school, they're using it. It's just not great. I think it's gonna happen more and more, and I'm particularly worried about it. I'm involved in youth sports. I spend a lot of time with kids. I know a lot of families around town. I just think it's a problem that we don't necessarily need. All for the idea of that maybe we're gonna pave our roads or something like that. So that's my 2 cents, and thanks for the time, appreciate it.
Anyone else like to speak? Okay.
Josh, I have a question for you.
Yes.
And I'm not sure where this authority and responsibility is, but let's say there are 5 applicants that want to do business, some kind of business, retail or growth business or packaging business in town, and they're competitive. These guys say it's a competitive business. Who decides? Who gets the right to open up that particular business? Is it the Planning and Zoning Commission? Is it the Board of Selectmen? In the competitiveness of that thinking, if there are 5 applicants and we're only allowed 1, who makes that decision?
My understanding is that it's a state agency that oversees the actual licensing of any given establishment. And George, correct me if I'm wrong, they would be the ones to more or less say, yes, you could open up, we give you authorization to open up in Winchester, and then they would come before you with a license pre-approved. And they would be making an applicant as somebody who has been approved by the state to open in Winchester.
That's correct. I mean, all we do as a land use board is decide, with input from the public, what areas of the town can have these kinds of establishments. And, the discussion of hours of operation, our structure, the way we at least, put this thing together as far as the draft, is to be a special permit. So there's a public hearing about it, and there's an opportunity for, input. Site plan requirements as well. So you've got traffic flow, any of those kinds of issues we normally handle in a special permit and a site plan review is handled during that whole discussion. We don't select who actually gets it. The state would do the selection. We would just have the property, just like a liquor store, those kinds of things that the state doesn't control or tells how many can be in the town.
Isn't it the same thing that we went through with the medical marijuana? Because all those licenses were
Right.
issued by the state.
Well, my question was following the reason why that particular applicant provided a business plan when we can't make a judgment on that business plan. Am I correct on that?
Well,
Right.
yeah, they just came in with an idea, that's all.
Right, yeah,
Right.
okay.
You guys have the final say. You guys have the final say.
We have the final say on whether we would like to see these establishments open at all.
Right.
But I don't believe that we have the final say to choose between two different competing businesses. I believe that's a decision made by the
That's the
state.
state licensing responsibility.
The chance that you would have multiple people that got the chances that you would have multiple people that got granted your state license that would be applying to the town would be very, very minimal. Because out of everyone that can apply, there's only 12 of them being granted in the state. So to have, even 3 people approach you to open one would be highly unlikely.
That's this year. So 4 years from now, are we doing something that puts in place what could happen 4 years from now?
So I've worked with a lot in Massachusetts, and a lot of towns like you guys have seen what Great Barrington does. They go through the site plan approval and then to the planning board to negotiate their host agreement, which is to how they're gonna operate and, what taxes they're gonna pay to the town. But see, with Massachusetts, the town gives you the approval and then the state grants you the license. There is no lottery, so once you get through the town, you're almost guaranteed to get your license through the state as long as you've, checked all the boxes. So Connecticut's doing it a little backwards, and so what we see is, I'm working on a project that's up in Boston area. The town actually makes you go in front of the select board, you negotiate you get approved, and then you negotiate your agreement with them. Then you go to the state, you apply for your license, you get your license, and you come back and get your site plan.
But we're doing it the state first, getting the license.
Yes, so I mean, if it's any use to you guys, like the select board could be the person that makes the decision, because they could be the one that's negotiating the contract with the town before they get their license.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
That's how they kind of did it in Torrington too. They had a bunch of applications all out for how they picked Still River Wellness. And you guys there, the equivalent, went through all of them, picked one out. And then submitted them, let them submit their final applications for their medical dispensary to the state. So that's basically what I'm like, he's talking about. And you do have a point. What happens 5 years from now when you guys have discretion to have as many or as little as people as you want, or none? So you have to.
Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. Can I have an approval of minutes for the regular meeting on January 18th?
So move.
Any,
A second.
Candace, is second. Any corrections? All in favor? Unanimous? Can we have a motion for the special meeting on January 31st?
So move.
Thank you, Jack. Is there a second?
Second.
Jonathan? Any corrections? Seeing none, all in favor? Linda? In favor?
Yeah,
Okay, Jeff? Unanimous?
Just before I move on, Todd.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to, for the first time, we're seeing someone else create a set of minutes. And I just wanted to commend Glenn on the thoroughness, the clarity of the minutes you produced. Good for you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Very good job, Glenn. Citizens' comments? Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes or less. You may speak only once this round. Please give your name. Brian?
Hi, Brian Sunday, 152 Spencer Hill Road. Coming to the meeting, I didn't think you were gonna, it didn't occur to me, but I think it was nice that you gave a moment of silence to Millie and Walt St. Ange. I just wanted to say, from my experience dealing with Walt St. Ange over the years, being involved with the Republican Town Committee at various times, was a heck of a character. And I remember going to meetings give me the hardest time possible throughout the meeting about everything I was doing wrong procedurally. And then very often I'd have to give him a ride home, and he would give me a hard time on the ride home too. So it's certainly a big loss, and from my time as a newspaper reporter dealing with Millie Hudak was always great. I knew a lot about town, and I was saying to some friends over the weekend, what a loss for the town, and sort of wondering, who fills in the gaps like that. I know we have a couple folks around who are into local history, but definitely a big loss to the community. Thank you.
And who can forget Walter's feedback from his hearing aid?
Amen.
Anyone else? Town manager's report?
Yes, thank you very much. The first thing that I would like to do is I would like to invite gentleman who's sitting in the back up to the front. This, everybody, is Ted Schaefer. He is joining us from the town of Burlington, and he has agreed to be our new part-time Director of Economic Development. And I'd like to give Ted just a couple minutes to introduce himself and see if anybody has a question for him.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having me here this evening, all of you. As background, you may have learned, but I'm happy to go over. I was the first selectman for the town of Burlington for 10 years, up to most recently, and worked on all the things that you all work on. So I have great appreciation for all the time and effort that you all put into this, including the staff and getting all the resident input on things. So I come to you now in this capacity, taking those experiences with the things that you would like to accomplish with your business community, with economic development. In 10 years, as you all have gone through, there's been a lot of things we've worked on in Burlington, and I think it'll translate well into trying to accomplish what you would like to accomplish. So some of those things are, as you know, you have an existing business community, and the goals are to keep them healthy and strong into the future. So I'll be working on those efforts. The other area is if those businesses want to expand, if they have an interest in that, what kind of efforts and coordination and resources can we do, can the town bring to them, and the state and federal bring to them to help them accomplish that. And the third one is if you all see an area that you would like to try to attract and recruit business, that I have experience on the municipal level and reaching out to those type of businesses and developers and construction companies and banks and the whole process. So look forward to it. I've always worked on these things on a team basis as an integrative approach. So I look forward to hearing all your thoughts on how to move forward and keeping you updated, everyone updated on efforts, and so we have the best results and the best results for the community and the residents. And so that's kind of an encapsulation. I just wanted to say hello and thank you. This is my second week here. I want to thank the staff, the residents, some of you I've met so far. Thank you for the warm welcome and the support. And I hope to accomplish and meet the expectations that you have of this type of position and work. Thank you.
And I will add, Ted, you already hit the ground running last week. I know that you were out. You already had the opportunity to go around town with myself, with my predecessor, Bob Geiger, to meet a lot of the members of the business community, and that's going to continue. And this week we're starting to talk more about goals and being action-oriented. So it's going really well so far. And I can't thank the Board of Selectmen enough for supporting that American Rescue Plan Act allocation for this position. I think it's really going to be a home run.
Thank you very much. I'll be talking to you, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you. Thank you for the welcome.
Thank you. Ted?
Excellent. A few other updates for the group here. The state did pass the $10,000, I'm reading two separate things. Regarding COVID-19 testing, test kits remain available at Town Hall for individuals who need them. Please call 860-379-8771 to inquire farther. Hospitalizations and positivity rates around the state continue to drop. I believe as of February 4th, which is when I wrote this report, we were at a 6.57% positivity rate and 869 hospitalizations, and I believe that it has dropped since that time. Winchester's most recent 2-week average positivity rate, when I wrote this, was still over 30%, and as of today has dropped to just a little over 20%.
24.8.
24.8. Thank you, Candy. On economic development, of course, you just heard from Ted. Regarding infrastructure, please note that information has been circulating about upcoming road and infrastructure informational sessions. Attendance at the February 3rd meeting in Winchester Center was very high, and feedback has been positive so far. We do have 3 more sessions that are planned as of this time. One is tomorrow night. It's going to be at the Little Red Barn Brewery at 5:30 in person. And then we have on Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. in the Senior Center. That's going to be in person. And then lastly, next week, it's next Wednesday, and it's going to be virtual. You can sign up on the town's website to get a Zoom link and enter into that meeting. And we're trying to push out more information about the this bond package that includes quite a bit of money for roads, bridges, as well as 3 separate infrastructure projects. All of these different sessions are more or less the same. We're presenting the same package of information. There's no change between these different presentations. So once you've seen it, you've probably seen it all. But I encourage you, please, come out. Give some public comment. We're looking for feedback, and we're looking for individuals to hear more about this proposal that has been put forward. On solar, I did want to note for everybody, I have had the opportunity in tandem with the Connecticut Green Bank to have a review done of the Pearson School, the Hinsdale School, and the Gilbert School, and I know the Department of Public Works general parcel is going to be reviewed at some point for possible solar additions. On the Sue Grossman Greenway, I know that some of you are going to be very excited about this. Jim Rollins and Bart Clark of the Public Works Department have announced that they are reaching finishing touches on the engineering plans for the next phase of the Greenway, and they would like to present that information to you about the plan and next steps at the March 7th regular board meeting. So unless there are objections, we will set that date. A little later on in this meeting, I will give you an update on union negotiations. Regarding winter storms, in the last couple of storms, we've had the opportunity to be more proactive about getting information out about the parking bans that are put into place. More cars have been ticketed for violating the parking ban, and a handful, in fact, were towed. In the last couple of storms, we've also taken a more proactive approach to citing individuals for failing to shovel or clear their sidewalks in some way. We're not doing this to be punitive. I know that there are a lot of individuals who may struggle with an opportunity or having the opportunity to get out and shovel due to health, due to not having the money to pay for it. If anybody is in one of those situations, I encourage you to contact our social services office. But what we are trying to do is send a very clear message that so long as you have the means to do it, we need individuals as part of our ordinances, as outlined in our town charter, to do their part, to pay attention to the town rules that are in place, and make sure that they're contributing, especially when it comes to sidewalks. That's a serious health hazard for individuals trying to get around town. And then I have a number of items here marked on your calendar for your future reference. Especially the next regular Board of Selectmen meeting will not be held on a Monday, but will be held on a Tuesday due to the President's Day holiday. Are there any questions that members of the board have for me?
Mine will always be lights. So I guess the parts aren't in yet.
Parts are not in yet. That is the update. And that's regarding lights that are out on Main Street, for anybody who's wondering.
I think we should start thinking about the parking ordinance in general, especially on, the Main Street, which is a busy road, with parking, with people that are parking in this. I know that you had a meeting last week with businesses regarding parking, and some of that is always the competitive people that want to go into the shops and restaurants versus the people that live in the upstairs apartments and parking. And I think that we probably need to address that issue as well, in terms of going forward with all the discussions that are happening. We should look at updating that.
Anyone else? Questions for Josh? All right, moving on to correspondence. Anyone have anything? Steve, boards and commissions?
Okay, we have a couple of things to do here. I'm going to skip down to appointments first of all and present the name of Shane Deschamps for membership on the Recreation Board, be a permanent membership, a term to expire in April of 2028. And his name has been presented twice at this table before, and so now we're ready for his appointment. I will make that motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second. Oh, sorry.
Any, Jonathan, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Okay, and Shane is an enthusiastic young man, and we also learned over the course of the last week or so that he's also interested in being a member of the Economic Development Commission. And at the current time, we have a vacancy in the for an alternate position. And since we vetted him pretty closely for recreation, I think we're at a point right now where we can go right to step 2 and nominate Shane Deschamps as a member of the Economic Development Commission alternate, term to expire in April of 2027. We'll do that tonight, and then in 2 weeks, we'll take action on that appointment.
What's the quick question? Is he going to be available a couple times a month?
Right, because
Because his letter tonight, he said something came up and he was busy, so he's aware that EDC and rec department meetings will put him out multiple times a month.
Well, I haven't spoken with him directly about that point, but I mean, I know his energy. He'll make every effort to be there.
yeah, alternate doesn't mean coming whenever, it's still same as a full, even if you're permanent.
It's a commitment to
Right.
attend every meeting.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
That would be my report.
Thank you, Steve. We don't have any unfinished business, correct? Nope. All right, new business. Refunds recommended by the Collector of Revenue.
Very good. So the refunds in front of you tonight total $9,752.77. Well, actually, I apologize. That number appears to be outdated. Please refer to the attachments that are from the Collector of Revenue herself. There are three different areas of refunds that I would like to cover. First is on motor vehicles. Those total $142.74, and those are both change of certificates. There are $9,256.75 worth of real estate refunds, and those are all overpayments that we are correcting. And then there's another $353.28 in supplemental motor vehicle taxes, and those are all due to change of certificates. The grand total for all of those refunds, and I apologize for my earlier misstatement, is $9,752.77. And the recommendation is that those be approved.
So moved.
Thank you, Candy. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll give Linda the second. We gave John the last one. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? Item B, discussion on tax exempt policies.
So the item that we're primarily discussing tonight is the exemption for on a tax assessment for veterans. And before we dive into this, I do want to state, and I think I speak for everybody who's here on this board when I say that we fully support the veterans that live in our community. We are looking to try and make sure that they have an opportunity to have Winstead be a little bit more affordable for them through this exemption. And the bottom line is that prior to this year, the town has offered veterans living in town that make under a certain amount of income each year a modest property tax exemption. The problem that we're seeing here in the office is that there is not a regular policy that's on the books. So what we're trying to do here, why I'm bringing this to the board, is to make sure that we have a uniform policy going forward so that there are no questions about how to apply for such an exemption and to make sure that the exemption is being applied uniformly. So I did send out to all of you by email, and I've also given you a hard copy here in person of a proposed or a draft, I should say, ordinance that could be adopted along with a few considerations for your consideration. And I would recommend at this time that a public hearing be set at a future Board of Selectmen meeting to hear public comment and to discuss this further.
There's a couple things. First, the procedures. If it's an ordinance, we don't have to have a public hearing. If it's an ordinance, it goes through the board puts it out for a period of 3 meetings in a row, puts all the information out there. And the reason I say that is because I know that this board supports the veterans exemption, the one that we've been currently giving out, but just hasn't been codified into a written document. The assessor's office has been giving out the veterans exemptions since I was on the board in 2003. I know that we updated some of those policies in my early years, and those are what I believe have still been working through the assessor's office. But what Josh is doing, I believe, is making sure, and with the new assessors in the office too, is just making sure that everything's codified in a document where everybody knows what it is, so when one assessor changes to another assessor, it's right there for them. And I know that this entire board supports the exemptions that we've been giving to this point.
So I'll make that motion. I'll move the Board of Selectmen hold a public hearing, or 3 in the next 3 consecutive.
We just create an ordinance, that Josh creates an ordinance and then.
That you create the ordinance, but it's presented at 3 consecutive. It has to have 3 meetings for it.
Right, it's on the agenda for 3 meetings.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, our regular ordinance procedure.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Hold a public, so create codify the ordinance and then have it as for public comment at the next 3 consecutive Board of Selectmen meetings on local property tax exemptions for veterans.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
The only thing I would just say is I think Josh is aware of, the different issues, and that I think the state sets forward certain maximums and minimums, and as long as we stay within those and do what we've been doing, so no veteran that currently has a exemption now gets reduced. So so as you look, or the assessor looks through the amount of veterans that there are, that whatever figure we use is that no one gets any less than they've been getting over these past years.
Understood, thank you. And for everybody's reference, I know the mayor had asked me to produce this number for tonight's meeting. We do currently have 15, or I should say in past years, we have had as many as 15 veterans who have applied for and received this exemption.
All in favor of the ordinance? Unanimous? Moving on to item C. This, I asked Josh to put this on. The last few months have been rather abusive to the town of Winchester and its history. We've lost 2 mayors and 1 Board of Selectmen member in Walter. And we really don't have a uniform operating procedure for how we recognize a past member of a board. So I guess I'm looking for how the board feels on if we wanted to put together a standard operating procedure moving forward, such as, you know, requesting that the flags be lowered from the governor's office. Do we want the bunting placed at the entrance to town hall? Or any other ideas that maybe a board member has. It's not really anything that we need an ordinance for, I don't think. Just a procedure would probably be best, as long as, I'm just looking for uniformity, so it's the same all the time. Does anyone have any opinions on that? Candy?
Well, I guess the hardest part about all of this is going to be, I mean, you can identify people that were Board of Selectmen, you could identify officially, you could identify people that were on boards and commissions officially, but there may be some issues in terms of, are we gonna just stick to that, or there are other people that have had huge impacts in the community that may not have served in either of those two capacities.
Such as Millie, for example.
Well, yeah, she's a town historian, so she technically has a technical position with this, but, so when these procedures, policies get developed, there should also be some discretion in there for, you know, people that have significant impact. I mean, you can argue that everybody has a significant impact on the community, anybody that, no, I mean, seriously, you could. I mean, how many church fairs do you go to that people have been sitting there knitting away for over a year and are offering this to help their community, right? And so from that point of view, you know, that's the difficult part, is not sometimes who you honor, but where you might not honor, so I think the flag, I think the bunting is good. I mean, I think it might be nice this someday, and this would be Glenn, because he's the record keeper of everything, is, you know, I don't know if there's ever been a list of every selectman, you know, in town anywhere, or.
Yeah, that was something else that I was thinking about, based on the 250th play. You had the list of the mayors from the beginning. You know, we can probably work off of that. And then I know the binders in the town clerk's office do have the election results.
I know Sheila started something, but researching that list, I don't know if it's for Glenn, because he's too busy learning right now, but maybe there could be some volunteers that go in and start going through books. I wouldn't want that to be his priority at the moment, and everything, when, well, it's almost fishing season and fishing licenses.
I have a crack team that's ready for this mission.
We do have some interns too from the colleges, right?
They're working right now pretty hard on, with Public Works, I should say, on cemeteries, but I'm sure that they could be redirected for a short.
Well, I mean, I don't think that you have to do it right.
Yeah, it's not something that needs to be.
Burning thing, but, yeah, I think that's fine.
Anyone else with opinions? Suggestions?
I'm just hoping like it's not me for a long time.
The other thing too is a lot of people
Or any
move
one of
out of
us for a
state.
long time, so Todd, let's not be, you know. There you go, brass tacks.
Todd, if you'd like, I can reach out to other towns and see if any other towns nearby have a standard operating procedure that we might want to take ideas from.
Perfect.
Not to include a mayor for 3 months. That would be my recommendation.
Anything else? All right, moving on to citizens' comments, round 2. Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes and may speak only once. Please give your name and address.
Yeah, John, we are 16th Fair Street, Connecticut. I got the letter about the veterans. And I'm just wondering is there any way that we can increase that? The amount that we get for a veterans discount or tax? I know the state, Martin gets $10,000. I think we get $2,250. I don't know, maybe wrong. But if we could get it up a little bit, I know a lot of veterans would appreciate it. I know you probably had, what'd you say, 15 new ones? but we still have a lot of others, like myself, that have been getting it for a number of years now.
Absolutely.
It would help a lot.
And that's 15 individuals that we've had over time who are a part of this exemption. But I think that's exactly what the Board of Selectmen will be hearing and considering over the next 3 meetings, is a sense of really where we want to go with the exemption. I think everybody wants to see it in place, and as Candy said, we want to make sure that what's codified is at least meeting the minimum of what you've been receiving to date. But there is a possibility for increases from there. So certainly, your comment to that effect is welcome.
Thank you.
Who else would like to speak? Anyone? Selectmen's comments and reports. Jonathan?
Yes. It's brief, but it is important. I just have a liaison's report from the Board of Rec. The Bachelor's School has, considering uses for the rec department, there's going to be a Gilbert meeting April 6th for potential opportunities for programs missing for kids. It was a thing that we talked about on activities for the youth, and it will be a meeting that will include Superintendent, Mr. Shagru, the principal, and myself as liaison. That's it.
Anyone else?
Move we adjourn.
We have
Sorry.
executive session.
Yeah.
Move we
You
go
jumped ahead,
into
Steve.
executive session.
We can move into executive. That's the thing about the executive session, you really need to state why we're going into executive session, what the topic is.
It would be discussions on negotiations, ongoing union negotiations.
I'll second that.
And it is 8:09 PM.
Taking the town manager in as well.
Remember, they used to have the selectmen up there in the pictures, Candy, you remember the pictures of the selectmen?
Those were just,
And they had their names underneath.
yeah, but it was just a few, it wasn't everybody.
No, it wasn't everybody, but there was like.
Todd, are we moving or?
Yeah, we're gonna go
or
over to
is
the
Glenn
blue room.
gonna shut everything off?
Yeah, blue room.
With us. What he did was he actually submitted a full business proposal. I have it on my desk, so I have his name on my desk. His name's Michael, but I can't remember his last name. Yeah, but I can tell you what his name is based on that. Unless they have other questions. Yeah, I can go up right after this.
Well, thank you.
I didn't even see,
All right, I'll take a big one.
It's item number 14, Steve.
We're all the same, we're all
On the
Town
agenda.
manager report.
No,
no.
Right here on,
What I'm saying is,
did we get any?
did we get any of the communication
Big
about
one. I think 71 I ago.
discussion?
Oh,
The answer is probably no.
Well, the answer is,
Are we leaving from here?
Yep.
You sure? Well, that's very kind of you. These are
It's
big.
comfortable.
all dollars.
That's still going, so.
yeah, blue room. Blue room will be back.
I guess I lost my button.
When did it turn on? Did it turn on before Todd opened the meeting?
Hey,
A little bit, yeah.
I haven't seen you. How are you?
what are you giving me
So
here?
is this a Susan B. Anthony?
That's what we had last
Kind of need to know that because
Nice. You giving these away, Joe?
Second two week, is that
You're
second
such a
two
nice
week?
guy, Joe.
whatever, I don't know, I got a bunch of them somewhere. Come on, sir.
What, you passing out money?
Yeah,
This is an Eisenhower dollar, isn't it?
yeah.
Yes? What do you mean?
Which one do you want?
Why are you giving money away?
Souvenir.
my dad.
Souvenir.
It's your birthday, it's Christmas present.
I've got other Eisenhower dollars. I'll take this one and thank you.
Okay.
I got one, Joe.
Yeah, man,
I took the quarter, Joe.
Huh?
I know you need the money. I only took the quarter.
That's not a quarter.
It's a dollar.
The little one?
Yeah. Sacagawea dollar.
People don't even know what the hell they are, that's why I pass them out, people don't know anymore. What is the big one? $1. That's worth $1 too?
Look on and read it. It says $1.
It'll be confusing.
Legal tender, $1. Gee, people don't even know what they have for legal tender.
You're being recorded right now, just so you know.
That's okay, I don't care.
Just so you know.
I've been recorded many, many times.
It's going out to the internet.
Oh, yeah, I come down here, they brought up on, I got in the mail today about the military funds they want to take away for, I didn't really know what they were gonna do. They're gonna take the discount we get, or what?
No, that was the discussion tonight. No, I don't think they're gonna take it away, Joe.
And what I couldn't understand is when I first came on, back in the sixties, it was $1,500. Today, 50 years later, 55 years later, it's $1,500. The car back then for a brand new car, Chevy Super Sport, $3,000. Now they want like 40,000. My house I got for 29. They're going for over 100. They didn't keep up with them, you see? It's a little, I think that they give, for people wanting the service, I think it's kind of ridiculous.
Well, I think that's what they were saying just now, is they want to see if they can increase that a little bit. There you go.
looked and it was on. I was like, oh no. Because in the, anyway.